Hey everyone, I'm going to share my opinions on the game, what I like about it, don't like about it, and the different changes that I would make in order to increase the player experience. So currently I'm in the roadmap where you can exchange your sombreros or your beach balls or your seashells for WD tokens and attempt to pull one of the other items that you don't already have. So I'm spending 800 seashells because I really don't need another Generation 1 strong Ivanova, but would love to get either a Lodi with beach balls or Harper with the sombreros. So here's one of my first grievances with this game. As you see, I make a pull and end up getting 200 shells back. I just spent 800 shells to get 200 back. This is so frustrating to me. I personally would have liked this roadmap a lot better if there was a ratio between how many of one item you put in and how many potential of another item I could get out. For instance, if I put in 1,000 shells and I knew I was getting back 250 sombreros or 400 beach balls, I would be much more satisfied than getting 200 shells back, which is 25% of my initial investment. Next, when we look at premier recruits, the odds of actually pulling the recruit that you want is so small, it's ridiculous to me. There are supposed to be progressive odds, meaning the more you spend, the more likely you are to get the tune that you want. But then I hear about people doing 640 pulls and not getting the tune that they initially pulled for. This is crazy to me. Next, I gotta ask where the legacy tunes are. It's been a long time since we got a legacy tune, and we haven't seen Lee or Maggie or Herschel or Magna, and all of a sudden we're getting leaks of a Romanoff who's supposed to be a new legacy tune. Meanwhile, we've waited about 2 months on these other tunes and have not heard a peep. I know Lockdown ended up doing a video showing the difference between the number of premier and promo tunes versus the number of legacy tunes. I just feel like free-to-play and light spenders have no fighting chance. So now when we look at the supply depot, this is so out of date. I pick up cans, I pick up trainers, but I don't see the point in trying to pick up this character, this tune. There is no reason for me to. Most 5-stars are near obsolete. I'm not sure why they haven't added more ascendable tunes into the supply depot or given war cans as an option for people to get and buy. Next, I really do like the gear marker area. I like having the ability to buy the gear that I need daily, and the food option is amazing. I remember when they ended up fixing the food option so you can select as many food as you want, including the maximum number, so that saved a lot of clicking and waiting and clicking and waiting. Next, when we go over to the survival markers, has this depot ever been revamped? I swear I've seen this Jesus in here since the very start. He wasn't usable then, and he's less usable now. With the effort and energy that it takes to get these 5-star tunes, you would think Scopely would make them to be ascendables of at least some value because they take a lot of time doing survival road and collecting markers and are gear specific. This Ascendance medal crate I buy every day because I knew I would need silver medals and legendary medals moving forward. This area of a supply depot is also pretty out of date. We have had David and John in here for a long time, and I have still not gotten David because I don't find him to be that useful, and John was useful before, but now with the Generation 2 6-stars, he can't really be used by any competing player. Now I do like the gear options in here, and I like the fact that there's Liliths and Ulysses as well, so it's an alternative route to the League store to getting specific gear that you need, but it is a very slow and tedious task with tunes that no one really wants anymore. Next, we look at Tara. I have had a number of these 5-star Taras that I just haven't ascended because it takes too many flare guns to make her useful, and as a 6-star, I only have 4 earrings, and that includes getting 2 of them from the last event mission that we had, where it was rewarding them during skull tokens. To be honest, Tara is not a bad tune. Her lead skill makes her a true leader with plus 40 attack and a huge bonus to AP when attacking. Her her rush is fast, and you're able to defense down a line of enemies for one turn. This type of rush pairs perfectly with Generation 1 Tai, and her active skill is very relevant even in the current meta of 100% heal reduction. Another faction assault toon that I've never gotten or received any items for is this Connor. And when I took a look at his bandanas, it seems like you can only get him during Tier 4 or Stage 4 of Assault, which almost no one does, especially if you're able to do Tier 6, because you get better rewards for it, and no one's looking to collect this 5-star that really has no value again. 5 stars just can't keep up right now. There's only a few 5 stars that I would keep in my roster and use. When we think about the new toons that are coming out, so Generation 2 6 stars have 500 more base stats than Generation 1, but this new S-Class has 1,000 more stats than Generation 2, which means there are so many more stat points than 5 stars. Next, when we look at the rest of these museum collections, there's a bunch of toons that I've never seen on any wheels before, and the game isn't even able to tell me where I can get some of them. So how am I expected to finish these collections if I'm not able to get the toons at all? I wish with all the new toons that have been added to this game that Scopely would add new museum collections that players could complete in order to get more war cans, max out these 2 toons in order to get a different toon, kind of like how we were able to get Roxy by having a maxed out Harlan and Jessie. So an example would be like to submit Green Carl and Red Mirabelle and being able to get Yellow Camilla out of it. A toon that wouldn't be game breaking but would help a lot of players with moving their team forward. I also don't understand what the museum points are for. We collect them and have no way to redeem them for anything useful. My next issue is with scavenger camps. We always have issues trying to get YGL to show up. I know for some players it can take weeks to show up, and this creates a disadvantage, especially during level up tournaments. My next issue comes with the world map, where there's no more story mode to move ahead. I personally like playing through the story mode and reading what they come up with. Even having the option to start over in the story mode and choosing different options than before could be interesting for the player base. Jumping over to the roadmap section, I have all these bronze and silver radios, but no use for them because it's not the type of gear that I need. I wonder what happened to the gold radios, where you could get gold mods from it. I'm sure a lot of players would enjoy having that back as well. My next grievance is with Survival Road. I don't remember the last time we had an extension on Survival Road, at least for the daily one. I find it really boring now because I'm stuck at level 400 and there's no incentive for me to do it daily. Now, a step in the right direction was when they created the Nightmare Survival Road tournament. Sure, I think the execution could have been done better, but with a few simple changes, I think it could be very successful. For example, if Scopely had bronze, silver, and gold equivalent to gold, elite, and legendary, with bronze staying at 25 stages, silver at 30, and gold at 35, and then increasing the difficulty for elite and legendary, with elite having 40 stages and legendary having 50 stages, this I think would be better received by the player base, instead of having double the stages with no real increase in completion rewards. So there are a couple good things that I like that Scopely has done. This includes in the mission rewards, how the daily missions got upgraded, the story missions got upgraded for the side missions, and the new event missions, which offer a variety of different things to complete. Some are free to play and some are not. The next thing I absolutely hate are territories. The number of times it crashes on you where it kicks you completely out of the game and doesn't reload, or kicks you out of the game and does load the game again, then you just lost a territory energy, and the territory is now stuck under the 5-minute period, or how many times the territory says it's contested but you can't get in to fight, or it doesn't say it's contested and by the time you realize it is, you've missed your opportunity, or when it locks your team into a territory. And where are the limited time territories? And if they offered good rewards, this would be perfect with a Piper event going on. But it hasn't been seen in months. Jumping back to your town, there's still a section of a town that you can unlock. There are 6 buildings over there that could help you with overall growth. So this would be food storage, wood storage, a house for more people storage, just a variety of different things that you could work on over time. Again, jumping over to roadmaps, I don't understand why some roadmaps are so difficult and why they don't tell you if it's walkers or humans or both. You'd think that this would be a normal thing for Scopely to include in order to communicate with the player base, except it hardly is anymore, and you're going in blind to a lot of different roadmaps. And with many of these roadmaps needing special energy to complete, sometimes energy that you have to buy or earn, it can be very frustrating to have to repeat a stage only because you didn't know what to expect. So just to put it out there, I do believe that pay-to-play players should have an advantage in this game, but the amount of their advantage right now is like the Grand Canyon in difference between free-to-play players and pay-to-play players. There's just so little that Scopely ends up giving free-to-play players, and it's killing the player base. Why are players logging in? There's no daily login event that encourages them to log in. There's no grindable toon at the moment, and no, I don't consider Piper to be a grindable toon, considering the conditions you need in order to get the crossbones. It honestly feels like the only way to acquire her is by spending. And she's not even that great of a toon. She would help a lot of free-to-play players out, but she isn't game-changing. Even for pay-to-play players, it's hard for them to keep up because the meta keeps changing every 2 weeks. You have to spend to keep up, and if you don't spend, you fall behind. When you look at Pete, for instance, you could spend $2,000 and only earn 1/3 of Pete. 1/3. That is crazy by anyone's standards. And then there's people who have Survivor Club. They've been waiting how long for a new toon to be released? Or even more perks? Because honestly, they're just buying roster space at the moment, which in my opinion is not enough, especially for the cost that they pay. Survivors Club really needs to bring in a new toon. I also think if they started doing a specific roadmap where Survivor Club players could end up acquiring some special weapon that has been released before, so like the Absolute Defense Axe or the blue AP down weapon, I think that would be useful for these players and would be a better value of their money. That map could just be a once-a-month map. Meanwhile, they could have a daily or weekly map that people could get trainers from, because those would be useful in level-up events. Another idea that I have that I've seen in other games is where if you have a membership and say you do a 40 pull, then you have the choice of either keeping that pull and you're happy with it, or rolling your dice again and getting a reroll in order to try and get the toon that you want without spending on another 40 pull. Other tokens that also need a revamp include helper tokens. I usually get a 1-star weapon or 1-star toon. I feel like this was designed to encourage people to use other people's support characters, so often drop leads, but there's little incentive to do it if all you're getting is a 1-star weapon. I would recommend doing either elite character token pulls or elite item pulls, prestige tokens even coming from it, or really anything else, because no one needs what's being dropped with the helper tokens. It doesn't encourage people to work together. Instead, it encourages us to ignore the helper toons. People also want to see the war crates that you get during war to be revamped, because right now, you're getting such a small amount of supply depot points, either from supply tokens that you get specifically from the war crate, or indirectly from the elite character item, which is usually a 3-star, or the elite weapon item, which is usually a 3-star as well. If Scopely decided to put better supply depot characters in the supply depot and increase the number of supply depot points that you got in the war crates, then this would make sense. But right now, people are just hoarding them and not knowing what to spend them on. They could even replace it with horde markers if they plan on continuing with hordes. Even if Scopely added in war tokens into the war crates, this would make sense to me because it would be a grindable way for free-to-play players, spenders, and light spenders to get more war tokens. Sure, the drop rate would be small, but the idea of being able to pick up even 100 or 200 war tokens to supplement whatever your faction earns would be a great reward for those players who grind in lower level factions. If Scopely decides to revamp the elite character tokens as well as the elite weapon tokens and the prestige tokens, then if Scopely offered these 3 items also in the war crates, it would be something the player base would actually want instead of just groan about. Speaking of prestige tokens, I think Scopely should remove 4 stars from this wheel because it takes so long. In order to get 1000 prestige tokens, you should always get a 5-star or an ascendable. In my opinion, some of the 5 stars on that wheel should be museum tunes, so then you have a chance at filling out those collections. A simple idea to revamp the elite character tokens is by changing the redeemable quantity of tokens at a time. So for instance, if you could exchange 5 elite character token items for 1 guaranteed 4-star, or 10 elite character token items for 1 guaranteed 5-star, this would be a lot more useful to the player base, because now 5 stars can barely keep up with the 6 stars, Generation 2 6 stars, and S tunes. The tunes found on the elite character wheel could easily be revamped by adding Generation 2 characters that are not game-breaking, but desirable. Weapon tokens are also a joke. You have such a high % chance of getting 3-star weapons, and hardly a chance at getting 4-star weapons, that it's ridiculous, laughable even. But at that, the weapons in that wheel haven't been changed in a very, very, very long time, if ever. This includes the 4-star weapon wheel. I've just been saving tokens because I have all the 4-star weapons off the wheel, and I don't really need any more of them. They're just going to become useless supply depot points. This wheel really needs a revamp. Another really bad token is basic tokens. You get so many of them, especially from war crates and war itself, that you don't know what to do with them. You pick them up in raids as well, and when you redeem them, you get a bunch of 1-star, 2-star, the odd 3-star weapons, including 1 or 2-star tunes, and the occasional 3-star tune, which you don't need anyway. Another part to these tokens that I really dislike is only being able to open 10 tokens at a time. This is so tedious after war and not rewarding at all. It's also completely ridiculous that there is an option to purchase basic tokens for 150 coins each. This is such a scam and should be removed immediately. Another frustrating area is the training grounds. I've been trying for over a year to get 5 stars out of my legendary training. In 1 year, I've gotten 2 5 stars. I've seen a video of someone doing a 100 pull on their legendary training and not getting a single 5-star, but maybe 5 to 6 4 stars. I really miss when Scopely had tunes as prizes for level up events, where 1st, 2nd, and 3rd were guaranteed a tune. I like guarantees like this because it's something that we can work towards, plan, and strive for. With the amount of RNG in this game, I have a better chance at winning the lottery than getting exactly what I want. There is no grindable features at the moment, and this makes it very difficult for players who don't spend much or don't spend at all. In my eyes, RNG creates player unhappiness. As you see from all the tunes that I'm leveling up right now, I'm using a lot of trainers. In my opinion, these trainers should stack, so 10 Liliths should only take up 1 roster spot, same as multiple Bennies, Berts, any type of active trainer, and so on. There are just a lot of ways in order to increase the player experience. Take the 30-day pass. If they changed the tunes that you could get at the end of your 30 days, this would encourage people to keep getting this cheap and reliable 30-day coin pass. Or if you gave the player the option to accept the tune or accept multiple Benedicts in exchange for the tune itself, because trainers are always useful, especially during level up events. Another small thing that Scopely could do is increase the overall player level cap. We've been capped off at level 150 for a while now, and it would be nice if I was extended to at least 175, if not level 200. As mentioned before, with war being the player's favorite event, you would expect the war rewards to be amazing, but the war wheel is often less than satisfactory. In my opinion, the war wheel should only have Generation 2 tunes on it, especially with Scopely increasing the number of war tokens it takes to get a pull. Add in S tunes being integrated into the game. It's imperative that players have the tools in order to compete, else they may play a different game where they can. Another area to improve upon is integrating new players to the game and getting them invested in the game so that they enjoy it and can catch up to the other players who've been playing for a much longer period of time. In order to expedite progress, players need to have the tools available to them so that they can progress. This is usually in the form of tunes. So my idea is that any new player who starts playing the game, and when they reach level 15, they should be awarded a player pack. This player pack would have 5 tunes included in it, and you can choose either strong tunes, fast tunes, alert tunes, or tough tunes, but all tunes will be of the same trait. So I threw together an example of each pack. Each one would have at least 1 leader tune, 1 guardian tune, as well as 1 Generation 2 6-star. The strong pack would have Carl, Ivanova, Shiva, Victor, and Jackson. Carl and Jackson both have a leadership skill, one for offense and one for defense. Guardian tunes like Ivanova can be used on offense or defense. Shiva is the damage dealer, and Victor is the main controller, along with a focus aspect. My tough package would have Dwight, Tyrese, Sadiq, Yumiko, and Generation 2 Guardian Douglas. This team is mostly offensive, but by using Sadiq and Douglas, you have some defensive aspects to it. This team would end up killing the attacker rather than stalling it out. Yumiko is a great tune for her turn 2 confuse, with Cutthroat getting a boost to 50% extra damage when the enemy has a status effect, and Sadiq able to impair, confuse, as well as AP gain and command other tunes. He is a great supporter. Tyrese has an active impair and can decap a line, while Douglas can taunt and heal as well as confuse with his active skill. Dwight also has a great rush where he can remove defensive buffs from the enemy. The fast team has Connor as a leader, who gives plus 36 crit, attack, focus, and a defense down rush. You have your Generation 2 Guardian, Rick, who's also a reviver, Romanoff your powerhouse, Yumiko, who has confounding, which is amplified because of Connor, as well as Sandy, who has a lot of power, but can also defense down the enemy and impair. And finally, the alert team has a Donnie lead, which can both be offensive or defensive, because his rush helps with AP gain, it heals, it stuns, and does a high amount of damage. Herschel is a Guardian 2 tune. He has a focus active skill, and his rush gives plus 50 attack and crit to your own team. A new threat governor is your main attacker. He is able to taunt rush enemies into him, and if he has a stun gun, he can potentially stun them. He is able to heal himself 100%, and he removes attack buffs from the enemy. By having evasion, he survives longer as well. Finally, you have Clementine, who has a stun gun automatically equipped to her. She is a big taunting tune and has vitality, which helps her survive for a longer period of time. These are the 4 comprehensive teams that I've put together that new players would be able to utilize and learn the game faster and develop their skills at an exponential rate. So I'm hoping my video thus far has been very informative and may help Scopely in the future with developing their game to increase the player experience. Now, for some background to this video, I saw a post in the forums regarding Players Unite. There's a lot of things that the players want to see changed, and previously in my video, you can see a variety of these ideas thrown out there and me giving my opinion on what could be done in order to help enhance the player experience. Now, I'm sure that's what we all want, both Scopely and as players, for us to have an enjoyable game that we can spend our time on, to grow relationships with, I know I really enjoy playing this game with my faction mates and my girlfriend. I'm really hoping that Scopely will take these suggestions and move forward in order to change even one or two things and communicate it to us, to the players. Now, we all know change isn't fast. It takes time, and I really, really hope that Scopely takes their time on making changes to the game to increase the enjoyability of all players in the game, as well as the community managers who do their best to ensure our happiness is met.